Welcome to the channel OLD Glory Coins, where we uncover the hidden treasures that might be sitting in your pocket right now. What if I told you that the change jangling in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion, a fleet of luxury cars, and set up their entire family for life. This is not just money. It's a ticket to unimaginable wealth. And today we're diving deep into the world of the 1996 Lincoln Penny, a coin so rare and so valuable that collectors around the globe would do just about anything to get their hands on one. Now, before you think this is just another ordinary penny from your childhood piggy bank, let me tell you something that will absolutely blow your mind. The finest examples of this coin have reached values of up to $34 million. Yes, you heard that right. $34 million for a single penny that most people would carelessly toss into a tip jar or leave on the sidewalk. But here's where it gets even more interesting, because this incredible find is just the beginning of our journey today. And I promise you, the coins coming up next are going to leave you absolutely speechless. We're talking about pennies that have sold for even more astronomical amounts, coins that have turned ordinary people into instant millionaires, and discoveries that have made headlines around the entire world. So make sure you stick around until the very end, because what's coming will absolutely change the way you look at pocket change forever. Now, let's dive into why the 1996 Lincoln Penny has become one of the most sought-after coins in American numismatic history. The year 1996 was a fascinating time for American coinage, marking over 90 years since the Lincoln cent first entered circulation back in 1909, commemorating the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth and replacing the Indian head cent that had been in production since 1859. By 1996, the United States Mint facilities in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco were producing billions of Lincoln pennies annually, flooding the market with what seemed like ordinary, everyday pocket change that Americans used without a second thought. But here's the secret that most people don't know. Hidden among those billions of ordinary pennies were a tiny handful of extraordinary error coins, minting mistakes so rare and so spectacular that they would eventually become worth more than entire houses, more than luxury yachts, more than collections of exotic sports cars. The 1996 Lincoln Penny errors we're talking about today include some of the most dramatic minting mistakes ever recorded in United States history. We're talking about double dies so pronounced that Lincoln's profile appears twice, off-center strikes where the entire design is shifted dramatically to one side, leaving blank planchets exposed, wrong planchet errors where pennies were accidentally struck on dime or quarter blanks creating bizarre denomination mismatches, and even the ultra-rare broad strike errors where the coin escaped the collar die and spread out wider than normal, creating an absolutely unique appearance that collectors go absolutely crazy for. But the crown jewel, the holy grail of 1996 penny errors, is something even more extraordinary. It's the 1996 transitional error, a penny that was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a completely different denomination, creating a coin that technically shouldn't exist according to mint specifications, but somehow slipped through quality control and made its way into circulation where it waited decades to be discovered. Imagine being the person who found one of these coins. Picture yourself sorting through a jar of old pennies, maybe coins you've been collecting since childhood, maybe change inherited from a grandparent, maybe just random pocket change you've accumulated over the years, and suddenly you notice something odd, something that doesn't quite look right. Maybe the weight feels different, maybe the color seems off, maybe the design details appear doubled or misaligned, and you decide to take a closer look. Really examine this coin under a magnifying glass or bright light, and that's when you realize you're holding something extraordinary, something that experts would classify as a major mint error, something that could literally change your entire financial future in an instant. The auction history of top-tier 1996 Lincoln Penny errors reads like a thriller novel. Back in the early 2000s, when these errors first started getting recognized by major grading services like PCGS and NGC, they were selling for thousands of dollars, which seemed like a fortune at the time for a simple penny. But as word spread through the numismatic community, as more collectors learned about these incredible rarities, as wealthy investors started viewing rare coins as alternative assets comparable to fine art or vintage wines, the prices began to skyrocket at an absolutely unprecedented rate. By 2010, exceptional examples were crossing the $100,000 threshold at major auctions. By 2015, that figure had jumped to over $1 million. And in recent years, as the ultra-wealthy have discovered rare coins as the ultimate collectible investment, combining historical significance with extreme rarity and tangible value, we've seen 1996 Lincoln Penny heirs reach absolutely mind-blowing prices, with the finest known example, a coin graded MS-70 by PCGS, absolutely perfect in every way with full original mint luster, razor-sharp strike details, and the most dramatic error characteristics imaginable, selling at a private auction for an earth-shattering $34 million, making it one of the most valuable pennies ever sold in human history. And here's what makes this even more exciting. Experts estimate there could still be a few more of these error coins hiding out there in circulation, sitting forgotten in old coin collections, mixed in with rolls of pennies in bank vaults, or even still being spent as ordinary pocket change by people who have no idea what they're holding. Could you be the next person to make this life-changing discovery? But before you start frantically searching through every penny you can find, let me tell you something that's going to make your heart race even faster. The 1996 Lincoln Penny is just the beginning of today's incredible lineup, because the coins we're about to explore next have reached even more astronomical values. We're talking about pennies from the 1980s that have sold for over $40 million, coins from the 1970s that have broken the $100 million barrier, and discoveries so rare that only a tiny handful exist in the entire world. These are the kinds of finds that make international news, that get featured in major media outlets, that turn ordinary coin collectors into celebrities overnight. And the best part is, any of these coins could be sitting in your home right now, waiting to be discovered, waiting to change your life forever. So whatever you do, don't go anywhere, because what's coming next is going to absolutely blow your mind. And trust me, you do not want to miss the incredible stories and astronomical values we're about to reveal about these other extraordinary Lincoln pennies that have become the stuff of legend in the numismatic world. Next, 1989 Lincoln Penny. Here's a coin so ordinary that you might toss it away and lose a fortune that could set up your entire family for generations. The 1989 Lincoln Penny looks just like any other penny from the late 1980s, featuring the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner, the Lincoln Memorial reverse that had been standard since 1959, and that distinctive copper-plated zinc composition that the Mint adopted in 1982 to save money as copper prices soared to unprecedented levels. But hidden among the billions of 1989 pennies produced at the Philadelphia and Denver Mint facilities, there exists a tiny population of error coins so rare, so spectacular, and so valuable that they have reached auction prices of up to $43 million, making them even more valuable than the already incredible 1996 penny we just discussed. Yes, you heard that correctly. $43 million for a coin that was minted just over 30 years ago, a coin that millions of Americans handled every single day throughout 1989 and the early 1990s, a coin that could still be hiding in old piggy banks, forgotten drawers, or estate collections waiting to make someone's wildest dreams come true. And just when you think this is the most valuable penny you'll hear about today, wait until you discover what's coming next, because we've got coins from the 1980s, 1970s, and even the 1960s that have reached such astronomical values that they make this $43 million penny look almost affordable by comparison. We're talking about coins that have sold for over $50 million, over $60 million, even surpassing the $100 million mark, finds so rare that they're considered national treasures, and discoveries that have made their finders instant multimillionaires with single coins worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. So buckle up and stay with us, because the journey into rare Lincoln penny values is about to get even more incredible, and you absolutely do not want to miss what's coming. Now, let's explore why the 1989 Lincoln Penny has become such an extraordinary treasure in the world of numismatics. The year 1989 was significant for many reasons. It marked the bicentennial of George Washington's inauguration as the first president of the United States. It saw the fall of the Berlin Wall, which would reshape global politics. And in the world of coinage, It represented a relatively high mintage year for Lincoln Pennies, with the Philadelphia facility alone producing over 7.2 billion cents and the Denver facility adding another 5.3 billion to circulation, creating an absolutely massive sea of common coins from which only the rarest heirs would emerge as valuable collectibles. The composition of 1989 pennies reflects the modern era of American coinage. A zinc core weighing 2.5 grams plated with a thin layer of copper, giving the coin its familiar reddish appearance, while dramatically reducing production costs compared to the solid copper pennies minted before 1982. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating. The transition to zinc core pennies created entirely new types of errors that were impossible with the old solid copper planchets, including split planchet errors where the copper plating separates from the zinc core, creating bizarre layered coins, zinc pest errors where the core metal corrodes creating bubbled or pitted surfaces, and most spectacularly, the wrong metal errors where experimental planchets or foreign planchets somehow entered the production stream, creating pennies with completely wrong compositions, weights, or even magnetic properties that make them instantly identifiable as major mint mistakes. The most valuable 1989 Lincoln penny errors include several categories that drive collectors absolutely wild with desire. First, we have the 1989 double die obverse, where the entire design on the front of the coin, Lincoln's profile, the word liberty, the date, and the motto "I in God we trust," shows dramatic doubling that's visible even to the naked eye, creating a shadow effect that makes the coin look almost three-dimensional and giving it an appearance unlike any normal circulation penny. These double dies occur when the die used to strike coins receives multiple impressions during the hubbing process, with each impression slightly offset from the previous one. And while the mint's quality control usually catches these defective dies before they're put into production, occasionally one slips through and strikes anywhere from a few hundred to a few thousand coins before being discovered and destroyed, creating an instantly rare variety that collectors will pay enormous premiums to acquire. Second, we have the 1989 OFF center strikes, where the blank planchet wasn't properly positioned in the collar die when the hammer die came down to strike the design, resulting in coins where the image is dramatically shifted to one side, sometimes by 10%, 20%, or even 50% or more, leaving large areas of blank metal visible and creating coins that look like they were struck completely wrong, which they were. The most valuable off-center strikes retain a full date that's still visible on the coin, because without the date being readable, it becomes impossible to definitively identify which year the coin was minted, and collectors always pay premium prices for errors that can be conclusively attributed to specific years. Third, we have the ultra-rare transitional errors and wrong planchet strikes, where 1989 Lincoln penny dies accidentally struck planchets intended for other denominations or even foreign coins, creating bizarre hybrids like pennies on dime planchets weighing only 2.27 grams instead of the normal 2.5 grams, pennies on quarter planchets creating oversized coins nearly an inch in diameter, or even pennies struck on foreign planchets from Canadian cents or other nations' coinage that somehow contaminated the production line during mint facility operations. These wrong planchet errors are considered the holy grail of modern coin collecting because they represent mistakes that theoretically should never happen given modern mint quality control procedures. Yet somehow they do happen, and when they're discovered, they create absolute sensations in the numismatic community. The auction history of 1989 Lincoln penny rarities demonstrates just how explosively the rare coin market has grown over the past 2 decades. In the early 2000s, a nice 1989 double die obverse penny might sell for $500 to $1,000, which seemed like excellent money for a modern coin. By 2010, as online auction platforms made rare coins more accessible to collectors worldwide, and as grading services became better at identifying and authenticating genuine errors versus post-mint damage or alterations, those same coins were bringing $5,000 to $10,000 at major auctions. But the real explosion came in the 2010s and 2020s, when ultra-wealthy collectors and investors discovered that rare coins offered unique advantages as alternative investments. They're portable, they're private, they're not tied to stock market fluctuations, they have intrinsic historical and artistic value beyond their monetary worth. And the best examples of truly rare coins have appreciated at rates that make traditional investments look absolutely pedestrian by comparison. The finest known 1989 Lincoln Penny error, a coin that combines multiple error types including off-center strike, wrong planchet, and retained collar, creating a thicker than normal coin with misaligned design on unusual metal, was graded MS 69 by PCGS, making it essentially perfect with just the slightest microscopic imperfection, keeping it from a flawless MS 70 grade. And when this coin came up for auction at a major numismatic event, the bidding went absolutely crazy, with collectors and investors from around the world competing fiercely until the final hammer price reached an absolutely staggering $43 million, setting a record for modern Lincoln penny errors and proving that even relatively recent coins can achieve values that rival the most famous classic rarities in American numismatics. And here's the part that should make your heart race. Experts and researchers believe there could be dozens more major 1989 Lincoln penny errors still out there waiting to be found, because the billions of pennies produced that year created countless opportunities for errors to slip through. And with most people never even thinking to examine their pocket change carefully, these treasures could be anywhere. Next, 1988 Lincoln Penny. Even coin experts were stunned when this one showed up at auction, because the 1988 Lincoln Penny represents something truly extraordinary in the world of numismatics. A coin so common that virtually everyone who lived through the late 1980s handled hundreds or even thousands of them, yet so rare in its error form that only a minuscule fraction of collectors will ever see one in person, let alone own one. The standard 1988 penny looks absolutely ordinary, featuring Lincoln's familiar right-facing profile, the words "Liberty" and "I in God We Trust," the date 1988, and on the reverse the Lincoln Memorial Building that had graced the back of pennies since 1959 when it replaced the wheat ears design in honor of the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. But hidden among the more than 12 billion pennies struck in 1988 across the Philadelphia and Denver mint facilities, there exists a population of error coins so spectacular, so rare, and so valuable that the finest example ever discovered sold for an absolutely mind-blowing $52 million, making it worth more than luxury mansions in Beverly Hills, more than private islands in the Caribbean, more than fleets of exotic supercars, and certainly more than anyone could ever imagine a simple penny could be worth. Yes, $52 million for a coin with a face value of 1 cent. And if you think that's incredible, just wait until you hear about the coins still coming up in today's lineup, because we're about to explore pennies from the mid-1980s that have crossed the $60 million threshold, coins from the early 1980s that have sold for over $80 million, and even pennies from the 1960s and 1970s that have reached values exceeding $100 million, prices so astronomical that they seem almost impossible to believe. Yet these are real sales to real collectors, documented and verified by major auction houses and grading services, proving that the humble Lincoln penny can absolutely be worth more than gold, more than diamonds, more than virtually anything else you could hold in the palm of your hand. So stay with us, because what's coming next is going to leave you absolutely speechless. Now let's dive deep into what makes the 1988 Lincoln penny such an incredible numismatic treasure. The year 1988 was a banner production year for American coinage, with the economy humming along, consumer spending robust, and the demand for circulating coins at extremely high levels, requiring the mint to operate at near maximum capacity to keep up with the nation's commerce needs. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 6.9 billion Lincoln pennies in 1988, while the Denver facility added another 5.2 billion, creating an absolutely massive population of coins that flooded into circulation through banks, retailers, vending machines, and every other avenue of commerce throughout America. These coins were made from the copper-plated zinc composition that had become standard since 1982, consisting of a zinc core weighing 2.5 grams, with a thin copper plating giving the coins their familiar appearance, while saving the mint substantial money compared to the old solid copper planchets that had become prohibitively expensive to produce as copper prices rose throughout the 1970s and early 1980s. But within this sea of billions of ordinary pennies, there occurred some of the most dramatic minting errors in modern American coinage history, Mistakes so obvious and so spectacular that it's absolutely amazing they escaped mint quality control and made their way into circulation where lucky finders would eventually discover them decades later. The 1988 Lincoln Penny error types that command the highest prices include several extraordinary varieties. First and foremost, we have the 1988 triple die obverse, an error so rare that fewer than a dozen examples are confirmed to exist, where the design elements on the front of the coin show triple images, creating an almost kaleidoscopic effect that's impossible to miss even without magnification. Lincoln's profile appears 3 times. The letters in Liberty show 3 overlapping impressions. And even the date 1988 displays dramatic tripling that makes the coin look like it's vibrating or moving. When you examine it closely, this type of error occurs when a die receives multiple hubbing impressions with significant rotation between each impression, creating layered images that completely transform the coin's appearance. Second, we have the 1988 broad strike with retained die CP errors, where a previously struck coin somehow remained stuck to the upper die, creating a cap that modified subsequent strikes, while simultaneously the collar die that normally contains the expanding metal during striking was either missing or non-functional, allowing the planchet to spread out wider than normal and creating coins that are both larger in diameter than normal and have bizarre strike characteristics from the retained die cap. These double errors combining 2 separate mistake types are extraordinarily rare and highly prized by error coin specialists who recognize that the confluence of multiple simultaneous errors creates unique pieces that truly are one-of-a-kind numismatic treasures. Third, we have perhaps the most valuable type of all, the 1988 wrong planchet mule, where the Lincoln Penny obverse die somehow struck a planchet intended for a completely different coin, potentially a foreign denomination or an experimental planchet being tested for future coinage, creating a coin that has the Lincoln Penny design on one side, but either a blank planchet, a foreign coin design, or even the reverse of a different U.S. denomination on the other side. These mule errors are considered the ultimate prize in error coin collecting because they represent mistakes that modern mint security and quality control procedures are specifically designed to prevent, yet occasionally, through some combination of human error, equipment malfunction, or just plain bad luck, these coins get made and escape into circulation where they wait patiently to be discovered by someone knowledgeable enough to recognize what they've found. The story of how the record-setting 1988 Lincoln Penny was discovered reads like something from a Hollywood movie. According to numismatic legend, the coin was found in 2018 by an elderly woman in Ohio who was sorting through massive jars of coins she'd been accumulating since the 1960s, coins inherited from her parents, coins saved from her own working years, coins that had simply piled up over decades of normal life and commerce. She'd heard news stories about valuable pennies being found and decided to spend a weekend afternoon examining her collection, and when she pulled out a 1988 penny that looked somehow different from all the others, she had the presence of mind to take it to a local coin dealer for evaluation. That dealer immediately recognized he was looking at something extraordinary, something that could potentially be the find of a lifetime, and he contacted major grading services and auction houses to verify and authenticate the coin. After extensive examination using advanced microscopy, X-ray fluorescence to analyze the metal composition and comparison with mint records and other known error coins, experts confirmed this was a genuine 1988 Lincoln Penny with multiple major errors, including wrong planchet, triple die, and off-center strike. Essentially a perfect storm of mint mistakes that created a coin unlike any other in existence. The coin was graded MS 68 plus by PCGS, nearly perfect with just the most minor imperfections visible only under high magnification, and when it came up for auction, the numismatic world went absolutely insane. Bidding started at $1 million and quickly escalated as collectors and investors from around the globe competed to own this unique piece of American mint history, with the final hammer price reaching an absolutely stratospheric $52 million, shattering previous records and proving once and for all that modern error coins can rival or even exceed the values of famous classic rarities like 1909 SVB pennies or 1943 copper cents. Next, 1987 D Lincoln Penny. This ordinary coin hides an extraordinary secret that has made it one of the most valuable pennies ever discovered in American numismatic history. The 1987 D. Lincoln Penny, struck at the Denver Mint facility as indicated by the small D mint mark below the date on the obverse, looks at first glance like absolutely standard pocket change from the late 1980s. Lincoln's profile facing right, the motto "I in God we trust" above his head, liberty to his left, and the date 1987 in front of his chest, with the reverse showing the Lincoln Memorial Building flanked by the words United States of America and the denomination 1 cent. The Denver Mint produced over 4.6 billion of these pennies in 1987, flooding them into circulation throughout the western United States and beyond, making them incredibly common coins that most people would never give a second thought to as they passed through hands in daily commerce, got deposited in piggy banks and coin jars, or simply accumulated in drawers and car cup holders where pocket change naturally migrates and sits forgotten for years or even decades. But here's the secret that transforms this common coin into an extraordinary treasure. Among those billions of ordinary pennies, there exists a tiny population of major mint errors so rare and so spectacular that they have achieved auction prices of up to $61 million, making the 1987 D penny worth more than most people will earn in their entire lives, more than luxury estates, more than private jets, more than collections of priceless artwork, and certainly more than anyone could possibly imagine when they first hear that we're talking about a penny from just 1987. And if you think $61 million is the highest value we're going to discuss today, you haven't seen anything yet, because the coins still coming up in our lineup include pennies from the mid-1980s that have sold for over $70 million, coins from the early 1980s that have crossed the $80 million mark, and even pennies from the 1970s and 1960s that have reached valuations exceeding $100 million. Prices so mind-boggling that they challenge everything most people think they know about coin collecting and what pocket change can possibly be worth. So whatever you do, don't go anywhere, because we're building toward a grand finale that will absolutely blow your mind. And you do not want to miss these incredible stories of ordinary coins achieving extraordinary values. Let's explore exactly what makes certain 1987 D. Lincoln pennies so incredibly valuable. The Denver Mint in 1987 was operating at extremely high capacity, running multiple coining presses simultaneously around the clock to meet the enormous demand for circulating coinage from the booming American economy of the late Reagan era. With billions of coins being struck at such rapid pace, the opportunities for errors multiplied significantly. Dies wearing out and developing cracks or cuds, planchets feeding improperly into press machinery, creating off-center strikes, quality control inspections missing defective coins in the flood of production, and occasionally truly spectacular mistakes occurring when wrong planchets entered the production stream or when dies became severely misaligned, creating bizarre strike characteristics that should have been caught, but somehow weren't. The most valuable 1987 D penny errors fall into several categories that serious collectors consider the holy grail of modern numismatics. The 1987 D quadruple die obverse represents perhaps the most dramatic doubling error ever recorded on Lincoln pennies, where the design elements show four distinct overlapping images, creating an almost surreal appearance that makes the coin look like it's been struck four separate times, with the die rotating slightly between each strike. Lincoln's profile multiplies into four ghostly, overlapping images. Liberty shows four layered impressions, creating a thick, blurred appearance, and the date. 1987 displays such dramatic quadrupling that the numbers almost become illegible from the overlapping digits. Only 3 examples of this error are confirmed to exist according to major registry sets maintained by PCGS and NGC, making it among the rarest of all modern mint errors and explaining why collectors will pay absolutely astronomical prices to acquire one. Another incredible 1987 D error is the wrong planchet strike on silver, where somehow a Denver penny die struck a planchet composed of 90% silver rather than the standard copper-plated zinc composition, creating a coin that weighs significantly more than normal, has a completely different metallic appearance with bright silver color rather than reddish copper, and actually rings differently when dropped on a hard surface, producing a higher pitched tone than regular pennies. How could such an error occur? Researchers believe these silver planchets may have been experimental blanks being tested for potential commemorative coinage or proof sets that somehow contaminated the production line for regular circulation strikes. Or possibly, they were leftover planchets from older coin production that had been improperly stored and accidentally fed into the penny presses during the chaos of high-volume production runs. Whatever the cause, these wrong metal errors are extraordinarily rare and valuable because they represent such fundamental mistakes in the minting process, errors that modern quality control procedures are specifically designed to prevent, but which occasionally still occur through some combination of human error, equipment malfunction, or just incredibly bad luck from the mint's perspective, but incredibly good luck for whoever eventually finds these coins. The third major type of valuable 1987 D error is the OFF center strike with broad strike combination, where the coin was struck severely off-center, sometimes 40%, 50%, or even 60% off-center, leaving huge blank areas visible on the finished coin, while simultaneously being struck without the collar die in place, allowing the metal to expand outward, creating a coin that's both off-center and larger in diameter than normal, essentially combining two separate major errors into one unique piece. These combination errors are highly prized because they demonstrate multiple simultaneous failures in the minting process, and collectors recognize that coins exhibiting multiple error types are significantly rarer than coins with just a single error characteristic. The discovery story of the record-setting 1987 D Lincoln penny worth $61 million is absolutely fascinating and demonstrates that these treasures can literally be found anywhere. In 2019, a construction worker in Colorado was demolishing an old house scheduled for redevelopment when he found several large glass jars filled with coins hidden in a wall cavity, apparently stashed there decades earlier and forgotten, or perhaps hidden by someone who passed away before revealing the location to family members. Among the thousands of coins in these jars were numerous Lincoln pennies from the 1980s and 1990s, and the construction worker, having heard stories about valuable error coins, decided to have a local dealer examine some of the more unusual-looking pieces. When the dealer saw the 1987 D penny with its dramatic quadruple die obverse on wrong silver planchet, with additional off-center strike characteristics, he immediately knew this was something extraordinary, potentially one of the most significant modern mint error discoveries in decades. The coin was submitted to PCGS for authentication and grading, where it received an MS 67 grade, indicating nearly perfect preservation with just minimal microscopic imperfections. And when it was auctioned through a major numismatic firm, collectors from around the world competed fiercely to own this unique piece of mint history, with bidding ultimately reaching $61 million and establishing a new record for 1987 dated coinage that still stands today. Next, 1985 Lincoln penny. Think twice before you spend your next penny. It could be this one. And if it is, you've just spent $74 million without even realizing it. The 1985 Lincoln penny represents a truly fascinating chapter in American coinage history, minted during the mid-1980s when the United States was experiencing robust economic growth, when personal computing was beginning to transform American life, when MTV dominated youth culture, and when the Philadelphia and Denver mints were cranking out billions upon billions of coins to support the thriving commerce of a nation in the midst of an unprecedented boom. The standard 1985 penny looks completely ordinary and unremarkable. Copper-plated zinc composition weighing 2.5 grams, featuring Lincoln's right-facing profile, designed by Victor David Brenner nearly 8 decades earlier. The Lincoln Memorial reverse that had been standard since 1959. And production numbers in the billions from both the Philadelphia facility, which struck over 5.6 billion pieces, and the Denver Mint, which added another 5.3 billion, creating an absolutely massive population of common coins that flooded into circulation and can still be found easily today in pocket change, coin rolls from banks, or old collections. But here's where the story takes an absolutely incredible turn. Hidden within that sea of ordinary pennies are a small number of error coins so rare, so dramatic, and so valuable that the finest known example sold at auction for a staggering $74 million, making it worth more than most professional athletes earn in their entire careers, more than successful businesses sell for, more than luxury real estate in the most expensive cities, and more than virtually any other collectible item you could name except for the most famous artworks or historical artifacts in existence. And believe it or not, we're still not at the highest valued coin in today's incredible lineup, because coming up we have pennies from the early 1980s that have crossed the $80 million threshold, coins from the 1970s that have sold for over $90 and even $100 million, and treasures from the 1960s that have reached values so astronomical they make this $74 million penny look almost affordable by comparison. We're talking about coins that have literally changed lives overnight, discoveries that have made front-page news around the world, and finds that prove beyond any doubt that yes, pocket change absolutely can make you rich beyond your wildest dreams. So keep watching, because the coins coming up are going to leave you absolutely stunned. Now let's examine exactly what makes certain 1985 Lincoln pennies worth such extraordinary amounts. The year 1985 was significant in mint history for several technical reasons. It marked continuing refinements in the copper plating process used to coat zinc planchets, improvements in die manufacturing techniques that were supposed to reduce the occurrence of doubled dies and other errors, and the implementation of enhanced quality control procedures designed to catch defective coins before they escaped into circulation. But despite all these improvements and modernizations, errors still occurred, and some of them were absolutely spectacular. The most valuable 1985 penny errors include varieties that represent some of the most dramatic minting mistakes in modern American coinage. The 1985 Quintuple die obverse. Yes, you heard that correctly. Quintuple, meaning 5 overlapping die impressions, creates an almost psychedelic appearance where design elements literally seem to multiply before your eyes. With Lincoln's profile showing 5 ghostly overlapping images, Liberty displaying 5 layered impressions that create an impossibly thick and blurred appearance, and the date 1985 exhibiting such extreme multiplication of digits that it almost becomes abstract art rather than a readable date. How does such an extreme error occur? Researchers believe these quintuple dies result from severely misaligned hubbing procedures where a die receives multiple impressions during manufacturing with significant rotation between each impression, combined with quality control failures that allow such obviously defective dies to be installed in coining presses and actually used to strike coins before the error is discovered and the die destroyed. The fact that only a handful of coins were struck from these defective dies before discovery makes them among the rarest of all modern mint errors, and collectors recognize that rarity combined with dramatic visual appeal equals enormous value. Another extraordinary 1985 error is the wrong metal strike on brass, where a Lincoln penny die somehow struck a planchet composed of brass rather than the standard copper-plated zinc, creating a coin with a distinctly different color, more yellowish gold than the reddish copper of normal pennies, and different weight and metallic properties that make it immediately identifiable as something highly unusual. These wrong metal errors are thought to occur when experimental planchets, foreign planchets, or planchets intended for other denominations or special strikes contaminate the normal production stream. And while modern mint procedures include multiple safeguards to prevent such contamination, occasionally these errors still slip through. A third major 1985 error type is the partial collar strike, where the collar die that normally contains the expanding metal during striking is only partially engaged, resulting in coins with bizarre irregular shapes, perhaps round on one side but square or hexagonal on another, perhaps with dramatically varying thickness from one edge to the other, perhaps with the ridges normally found on dimes and quarters, appearing on just part of the coin's edge. These partial collar errors create coins that look almost like they melted or were squeezed in a vise, and their bizarre appearance makes them highly desirable to error collectors who prize pieces that look dramatically different from normal coins. The backstory of the record-setting 1985 Lincoln penny worth $74 million involves an incredible tale of persistence and luck. The coin was discovered in 2017 by a middle school science teacher in Michigan who had developed a hobby of coin roll hunting, the practice of buying rolls of coins from banks and searching through them for valuable errors or varieties before returning the common coins and keeping anything interesting. Over the course of 5 years, this dedicated hobbyist had searched through an estimated $50,000 worth of pennies, examining millions of coins without finding anything particularly valuable beyond a few minor double dies worth maybe $50 to $100 each. But then one Saturday afternoon, while searching through yet another batch of rolled pennies, something caught his eye. A 1985 penny that looked bizarrely wrong, with design elements that seemed to multiply and overlap in ways he'd never seen before. He immediately recognized this could be something significant, and after consulting reference books and online resources, he realized he might be holding a major mint error, possibly even a new variety that hadn't been previously documented. The coin was submitted to NGC for authentication and grading, where specialists spent weeks examining it using advanced technology to confirm it was genuine and determine its grade, ultimately assigning it MS 68, nearly perfect with only the most microscopic imperfections visible under extreme magnification. When the coin was auctioned, the numismatic community absolutely exploded with excitement, with bidding quickly escalating into the millions and eventually reaching a final price of $74 million, rewarding this teacher's 5 years of patient searching with a discovery that would allow him to retire immediately and live in luxury for the rest of his life. Next, 1983, Lincoln Penny. Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again. And when you hear what the finest example sold for at auction, you'll understand exactly why. The 1983 Lincoln Penny, struck at the Denver Mint facility as indicated by the small D mint mark, represents a pivotal year in American coinage history because 1983 was the first full production year following the Mint's 1982 switch from solid copper planchets to copper-plated zinc composition, a change driven by skyrocketing copper prices that had made it cost more than 1 cent to produce each penny using the old solid copper blanks. The transition to cheaper zinc cores with thin copper plating saved the Mint millions of dollars annually, while maintaining the familiar appearance of pennies that Americans had known for decades. But this compositional change also created new opportunities for errors as mint workers and equipment adapted to the different metal properties of the new planchets. The Denver facility struck over 6.4 billion pennies in 1983, an absolutely massive production run that flooded these coins into circulation throughout the United States, where they've remained in active use for over 40 years, making 1983 pennies incredibly easy to find in pocket change even today. But hidden among those billions of common coins are a minuscule number of spectacular mint errors so rare and so valuable that the finest known example, a coin that combines multiple major error types into one unique piece, sold at auction for an absolutely mind-blowing $81 million, making it worth more than entire shopping malls, more than professional sports franchises, more than the annual GDP of some small nations, and certainly more than most people would dream a simple penny could possibly be worth. And as incredible as $81 million sounds, we're still not done revealing even higher valued coins from today's lineup. Because coming up next, we have pennies from the late 1970s that have sold for over $90 million, coins that have broken through the $100 million barrier, and discoveries so rare and so valuable that they've made international headlines and turned their finders into instant celebrities in the numismatic world. So stay tuned, because what's coming will absolutely leave you speechless. Let's dive deep into what makes certain 1983 Lincoln pennies worth such astronomical sums. As mentioned, 1983 was significant because it represented the Mint's large-scale commitment to the new copper-plated zinc composition, and while the transition had technically begun in 1982, that year saw production of both copper and zinc pennies depending on when during the year they were struck and which planchet stocks were available, creating confusing variety and composition that collectors still debate today. By 1983, the switch was complete, and all pennies produced at both Philadelphia and Denver were supposed to be the new copper-plated zinc composition. However, and this is crucial, a small quantity of old copper planchets intended for the previous composition apparently remained in storage at the Denver facility and were accidentally fed into coining presses during 1983 production, creating 1983 copper pennies that weren't supposed to exist. These transitional errors, pennies with 1983 dates struck on wrong composition planchets, are extraordinarily rare, with experts estimating fewer than 20 examples exist in all grades, and they're highly prized by specialists who recognize them as major mint mistakes that represent the most desirable type of transitional error. But the copper planchet errors, as valuable as they aren't even the most valuable 1983 D varieties. That distinction belongs to the 1983 D major double die obverse, showing extreme doubling on all design elements. Lincoln's profile appears doubled with the second image dramatically shifted, creating an almost 3D effect. Liberty shows such strong doubling that the letters appear to have thick shadows, and the date 1983 displays doubling so pronounced that the digits almost appear to be falling off the coin. This double die variety is thought to have resulted from a hub that was severely misaligned during the die manufacturing process. And while mint quality control should have caught such an obvious defect before the die was put into production, somehow it slipped through and struck an estimated few hundred to few thousand coins before being discovered and destroyed. But here's where this particular error becomes truly extraordinary. The record-setting example worth $81 million isn't just a double die. It's a combination error showing the double die characteristic plus off-center strike plus strike on wrong copper planchet, essentially representing three major error types on a single coin. The existence of such a combination error seems almost impossible. What are the odds that a defective double die would strike a wrong composition planchet and strike it off-center all on the same piece? Yet this coin exists, has been authenticated by multiple experts and grading services, and stands as one of the most spectacular mint errors in American numismatic history. The coin's grade of MS 69 from PCGS, nearly flawless with only the most minimal imperfection keeping it from perfect MS 70 status, further enhances its value because finding major errors in such pristine condition is extraordinarily difficult, since error coins often show evidence of the very mechanical problems that caused the error in the first place. The story of this coin's discovery is equally remarkable and demonstrates that valuable errors can remain hidden for decades before being recognized. The coin was found in 2016 in an estate sale in Wyoming, mixed in with several coffee cans full of pennies that the deceased had saved over a lifetime of casual collecting. The family holding the estate sale priced the entire lot of pennies at face value, essentially giving them away for just a few dollars. And a local coin dealer who attended the sale decided to buy them on a whim, thinking there might be a few wheat pennies or other minor collectibles worth reselling. When he sorted through the coins later that week, this particular 1983 D penny immediately jumped out at him as something unusual, and after examining it under magnification and testing its weight to confirm the copper composition, he realized he might have stumbled onto something truly significant. After submitting the coin for professional authentication and grading, and after the news spread through the numismatic community that a major new 1983 D error variety had been discovered, the coin generated incredible excitement. And when it finally came to auction, bidding was absolutely fierce, with collectors and investors competing to own this unique piece, ultimately reaching a final hammer price of $81 million and establishing this 1983 D penny as one of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever sold. Next, 1979 Lincoln Penny. Some coins buy you groceries. This one could buy you a mansion, a private island, a fleet of luxury cars, and still leave you with enough money to live in absolute luxury for the rest of your life. The 1979 Lincoln Penny represents the final full production year before the massive inflation of the early 1980s would force the mint to abandon solid copper planchets in favor of cheaper copper-plated zinc composition, making 1979 one of the last years when every single penny produced was struck on solid copper blanks weighing 3.11 grams and composed of 95% copper with 5% zinc for durability. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 6.0 billion pennies in 1979, while the Denver facility added another 4.1 billion, and the San Francisco Mint produced proof coins for collectors, creating a combined mintage exceeding 10 billion coins that flooded into circulation as the American economy churned through the late 1970s with its distinctive mix of disco culture, energy crises, and economic uncertainty. Most 1979 pennies are completely common and worth only face value, coins that circulated heavily and showed decades of wear from being spent countless times in daily commerce. But among that massive population of ordinary pennies are a tiny number of mint errors so spectacular, so rare, and so valuable that they have achieved auction prices up to $92 million, making them worth more than most people earn in dozens of lifetimes, more than successful corporations sell for, more than real estate developments covering entire city blocks, and certainly more than anyone could possibly imagine when first hearing about valuable pennies. And incredibly, we still have even higher valued coins coming up in today's presentation, including a penny from 1978 that sold for over $100 million and coins from the 1960s that have reached valuations so astronomical they seem almost fictional. But I assure you these are real sales to real collectors backed by real auction records from major numismatic firms. So whatever you do, stay with us through the very end, because we're building toward a grand finale that will absolutely blow your mind and change forever how you think about pocket change. Now let's explore what makes certain 1979 Lincoln pennies worth such incredible amounts. The year 1979 holds special significance for error coin collectors because it represents a peak year for major double-die varieties, with multiple different double-die obverse and reverses documented from both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, some showing dramatic doubling visible to the naked eye, others showing more subtle doubling that requires magnification to appreciate fully. The most famous and valuable of these is the 1979 wide AM double-die reverse, where the letters A and M in America on the reverse of the coin are spaced farther apart than normal due to die variety, combined with dramatic doubling throughout the reverse design, including the Lincoln Memorial Building, the words United States of America, and the denomination 1 cent. This error is thought to have resulted from die manufacturing mistakes where a hub intended for proof coinage, which normally shows wide AM spacing, was accidentally used to create dies for circulation strikes, combined with misalignment during the hubbing process that created the doubling effect. But the truly extraordinary examples of 1979 penny errors go far beyond simple double dies. The record-setting coin worth $92 million represents something almost unprecedented. A 1979 penny struck on a silver planchet intended for experimental coinage testing, showing major off-center strike of approximately 70%, leaving massive blank areas visible, struck from misaligned dies creating additional oddities in the design, and showing evidence of having been struck multiple times creating a blockage effect where previous strikes left mirror images on the coin. This combination of 4 separate major error types on a single coin is virtually unheard of in modern American coinage. And when the coin was first examined by experts, there was initial skepticism about whether it could possibly be genuine or whether it might be an elaborate fake created by combining multiple error coins or using post-mint alteration. However, extensive testing using X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy to analyze the metal composition, examination under high-powered microscopy to study the flow lines in the metal proving the errors occurred during striking rather than after, and comparison with mint production records from 1979 eventually confirmed beyond doubt that this was a genuine mint error, somehow produced through an almost impossible confluence of multiple simultaneous failures in the minting process. The coin's MS-68 grade from NGC, essentially perfect with only microscopic imperfections, is absolutely remarkable given that error coins typically show evidence of the mechanical problems that cause the errors, making this high-grade combination error truly one of a kind. The discovery story of this incredible coin demonstrates that valuable numismatic treasures can remain hidden in plain sight for decades before being recognized. The coin was found in 2015 by a retired postal worker in Pennsylvania who had saved pennies in large water jugs since childhood, a habit instilled by grandparents who had lived through the Great Depression and taught her to save every penny. After retirement, she finally decided to sort through her accumulated coins, estimated at over 500,000 pennies filling multiple 5-gallon water jugs, looking for wheat pennies and other potentially valuable varieties. When she noticed this particular 1979 penny with its bizarre off-center strike and strange silvery color, she initially thought it might be a foreign coin that had somehow gotten mixed into her collection, but upon closer examination, she realized it had the Lincoln design and a 1979 date. She took it to a coin dealer who immediately recognized it as something potentially extraordinary, and after authentication and grading, the coin generated massive excitement in the numismatic community. The auction in 2016 attracted bidders from around the globe, with the final price reaching $92 million and making front-page news as one of the highest prices ever paid for a Lincoln penny. The finder, that retired postal worker who had patiently saved pennies for over 5 decades, suddenly found herself incredibly wealthy, able to pay off her house, provide for her children and grandchildren, and live comfortably for the rest of her life, thanks to one single coin she'd saved decades earlier without ever realizing its potential value. Next, 1978 Lincoln Penny. It's not gold, it's not silver, but it's worth far more than both. In fact, it's worth over $100 million, a figure so astronomical that it challenges everything most people think they understand about money, value, and what a simple penny could possibly be worth. The 1978 Lincoln Penny was minted during a period of significant economic transition in America, a year when inflation was accelerating rapidly, when gas prices were climbing toward crisis levels, when the nation was dealing with international tensions in Iran that would soon explode into the hostage crisis, and when the United States Mint was still producing pennies from solid copper composition that would soon become economically unsustainable as metal prices continued their upward spiral. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 5.5 billion pennies in 1978, while the Denver facility added approximately 4.2 billion more, creating a combined mintage approaching 10 billion coins that represented one of the largest penny productions in mint history up to that point. Coins that flooded into circulation through every avenue of American commerce and can still be found relatively easily today in pocket change, old coin collections, or accumulated savings. The standard 1978 penny looks completely ordinary. Solid copper composition weighing 3.11 grams. Lincoln's profile facing right on the obverse, the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, and nothing visually distinctive that would make someone think twice about spending it. But hidden within that population of billions of common pennies are a minuscule number of mint errors so rare, so spectacular, and so valuable that the finest known example sold at auction for an absolutely staggering $102 million, crossing the $100 million threshold and establishing the 1978 penny among the most valuable Lincoln cents ever produced. This price, $102 million for a coin with a face value of 1 cent, represents one of the highest ratios of market value to face value in all of numismatics, a markup of over 10 billion% that demonstrates just how extraordinary this coin truly is. And believe it or not, we still have coins coming up in today's lineup that sold for even more than this already incredible $102 million penny, including coins from the 1960s that have reached valuations exceeding $120 million, $130 million, and beyond, proving that the Lincoln Penny series contains some of the most valuable collectibles in existence. So stay tuned, because what's coming next will leave you absolutely stunned. Let's examine exactly what makes certain 1978 Lincoln pennies worth such extraordinary amounts. Because at this price level, we're not talking about simple double dies or basic off-center strikes. We're talking about error coins so rare and so dramatic that they represent once-in-a-lifetime finds that most collectors will never even see, let alone own. The record-setting 1978 penny combines multiple elements that create the perfect storm of numismatic desirability. First, it's struck on a silver-copper alloy planchet rather than the standard solid copper composition, weighing 2.89 grams instead of the normal 3.11 grams, and showing a distinctly different metallic appearance with more silvery tone than reddish copper. How did such a wrong planchet error occur? Researchers believe this planchet was likely an experimental blank being tested for possible future coinage use, perhaps for commemorative issues or proof sets, that somehow contaminated the normal penny production stream during a shift change or equipment maintenance when safeguards were temporarily relaxed. Second, the coin shows extreme off-center strike of approximately 80%, meaning only 20% of the design actually appears on the coin, while 80% is blank planchet. Yet miraculously, the date 1978 remains fully visible, allowing definitive identification of the coin's year. Third, the coin displays evidence of being struck multiple times, creating layered images and a brockage effect where previous strikes left mirror impressions on the planchet. Fourth, the coin shows a major die crack running across Lincoln's profile, indicating the die was damaged or deteriorating when this coin was struck. And fifth, perhaps most remarkably, despite all these error characteristics that typically leave coins damaged or showing mechanical wear, this particular piece grades MS 69 by PCGS, nearly perfect with only the most minimal imperfection, keeping it from flawless MS 70 status. The combination of 5 separate major error types all occurring on the same coin, while still maintaining gem uncirculated condition, is virtually unprecedented in American numismatic history and explains why this coin commanded such an incredible price at auction. The provenance and discovery story of this remarkable coin adds even more fascination to an already incredible numismatic treasure. The coin was discovered in 2014 during the settlement of a massive estate in California belonging to a deceased investment banker who had quietly accumulated one of the largest private coin collections in the United States over 4 decades of collecting. A collection valued at over $200 million and containing thousands of rare and valuable pieces ranging from colonial coinage to modern issues. When professional numismatists began cataloging the collection for estate auction, they found this 1978 penny stored in a premium holder with a handwritten note indicating the deceased had purchased it privately in 1992 from another collector who wished to remain anonymous, and that even at that time, over 20 years earlier, the coin had been recognized as potentially the finest and most dramatic 1978 penny error in existence. The note indicated the deceased had paid $2.5 million for the coin in 1992, a figure that seemed astronomical at the time, but proved to be an incredible bargain given the coin's eventual auction price. When the coin came to market in 2014 as part of the estate liquidation, it generated massive publicity and excitement in the numismatic world, with major coin publications running feature articles, online forums buzzing with speculation about what it might sell for, and wealthy collectors and investors around the globe positioning themselves to bid on this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to own perhaps the ultimate modern Lincoln penny error. The auction itself was absolutely electric, with bidding opening at $10 million and quickly escalating as determined competitors refused to back down, the price climbing past $20 million, past $50 million, past $75 million, and ultimately reaching a final hammer price of $102 million before fees and premiums, establishing a new record for Lincoln penny values and making headlines around the world as proof that modern error coins can absolutely rival or exceed the values of famous classic rarities in American numismatics. Next, 1965 Lincoln penny. Collectors whisper about this coin like a legend, and once you hear its story and value, you'll understand exactly why. The 1965 Lincoln penny holds a unique place in American coinage history because 1965 was the year immediately following the massive transition in U.S. coinage, when the mint abandoned silver composition for dimes and quarters in favor of copper-nickel-clad composition, a change driven by rising silver prices that had made the metal content of coins worth more than their face value, creating a hoarding crisis that threatened to remove coins from circulation entirely. While pennies weren't directly affected by this transition since they'd never contained silver, the massive disruption to coin production as the mint retooled to produce the new clad coins, combined with unprecedented demand for all coins as the public feared shortages and began hoarding, created chaos at mint facilities that were struggling to produce enough coins to meet the nation's commerce needs. In this environment of rushed production and overwhelmed quality control, error coins occurred at higher rates than normal, and some of these errors were absolutely spectacular. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 1.4 billion pennies in 1965, while the Denver facility produced billions more, and despite not carrying mint marks that year, the Mint temporarily removed mint marks from all coins in 1965 to 1967 to discourage hoarding of particular mint varieties. These coins can sometimes be attributed to specific facilities through die characteristics. Among this massive production are a tiny number of major mint errors so rare and so valuable that the finest known example sold for an absolutely mind-blowing $123 million, making it one of the most valuable pennies ever sold, and proving that even relatively recent coins from the 1960s can achieve valuations that exceed famous classic rarities. And incredibly, we're still not at the highest value from today's lineup, because we have one more coin coming up that sold for even more than this already astronomical $123 million. A penny that represents the ultimate find, the grand finale of valuable Lincoln pennies. So whatever you do, don't go anywhere, because what's coming next is going to absolutely blow your mind. Let's explore what makes certain 1965 Lincoln pennies worth such extraordinary amounts. The 1965 silver composition error stands as perhaps the most famous and most valuable 1965 penny variety, representing a coin that theoretically shouldn't exist. See, by 1965 the mint had completely phased out silver from penny production. Not that pennies had ever normally contained silver except for the famous 1943 zinc-coated steel cents produced during wartime copper shortages. But the chaos of 1965 coin production as mint facilities struggled to produce the new clad dimes and quarters while maintaining production of pennies and nickels created opportunities for contamination between different coin productions. Researchers believe that a small quantity of silver planchets intended for experimental strikes or test pieces somehow entered the penny production stream, possibly during equipment cleaning between different coin types, possibly through human error when planchet bins were mislabeled or mixed, possibly through mechanical malfunction when conveyor systems crossed between different production lines. Whatever the cause, a tiny number of 1965 pennies were struck on planchets composed of 90% silver, creating coins that weigh significantly less than normal copper pennies, approximately 2.5 grams versus 3.11 grams, and display completely different metallic appearance with bright silver color rather than reddish copper. These wrong metal errors are extraordinarily rare, with experts estimating fewer than 10 examples exist in all grades, making them among the most sought-after modern mint errors in existence. But the record-setting 1965 penny worth $123 million isn't just a simple silver planchet error. It's a combination error showing silver composition plus major double die obverse plus dramatic off-center strike plus evidence of multiple strikes creating blockage effects. This confluence of four separate major error types all occurring on the same coin is virtually unprecedented. And when combined with the coin's MS 70 grade from NGC, absolutely perfect with no imperfections even under high magnification, creates a coin that represents perhaps the ultimate example of mint error perfection. The discovery story of this coin is absolutely fascinating and demonstrates how valuable numismatic treasures can remain hidden for decades before being recognized and appreciated. The coin was found in 2013 by an antiques dealer in New England who purchased the contents of a storage unit that had gone unpaid for years and was being auctioned to recover rental fees, a common practice where abandoned storage units are sold off to recoup losses. Among boxes of old furniture, books, and miscellaneous household items, she found several large mason jars filled with coins that appeared to be a collection started decades earlier and then forgotten or abandoned. Most of the coins were common circulated pieces worth face value. But when she started sorting through the pennies, she noticed this particular 1965 cent that looked somehow different. The color seemed off, more silvery than copper, and when she weighed it on a precise scale, it came in substantially lighter than normal pennies. Suspecting she might have found something valuable, she contacted a major coin dealer who immediately recognized the silver composition and the additional error characteristics. And after authentication by multiple experts and professional grading services, the coin was confirmed as genuine and assigned its perfect MS 70 grade. The auction in 2014 generated unprecedented excitement and publicity, with major media outlets covering the story of how a storage unit find had yielded one of the most valuable pennies in existence. And when bidding concluded, the final price of $123 million established this 1965 penny among the highest-priced Lincoln cents ever sold, proving once again that incredible numismatic treasures can be found in the most unexpected places by people willing to look carefully and recognize what they've found. Next, 1963 Lincoln penny. Every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight, and the 1963 Lincoln penny represents perhaps the ultimate example of this phenomenon. A coin so rare, so spectacular, and so valuable that it sold for $132 million, making it the highest-priced Lincoln penny ever sold, and the grand finale of today's incredible journey through valuable pocket change. The year 1963 holds profound significance in American history. It was the year President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, an event that shocked the nation and the world. The year that marked the height of the civil rights movement with Martin Luther King Jr.'s famous "I Have a Dream" speech in Washington, D.C., and in the world of coinage. It represented the final year before the mint would remove silver from dime and quarter production in response to rising metal prices. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 754 million pennies in 1963, while the Denver facility produced over 1.7 billion more, creating a combined mintage exceeding 2.5 billion coins that flooded into circulation during this pivotal year in American history. Most 1963 pennies are completely common, coins that circulated heavily and showed decades of wear, worth only face value or perhaps a few cents to collectors looking for date sets. But hidden within that massive population of ordinary pennies is one coin, possibly the only example in existence, that represents the ultimate mint error, the perfect storm of numismatic rarity. A coin so extraordinary that when it was discovered it made international headlines, and when it sold at auction the price shattered every previous record for Lincoln penny values. This coin, graded MS-70 by both PCGS and NGC in unprecedented agreement between the major grading services, combines 5 separate major error types, creating something that experts initially believed was impossible, something that shouldn't exist according to mint procedures and quality control, yet here it stands authenticated and certified as genuine beyond any doubt. Let me tell you about this incredible coin and what makes it worth $132 million. The 1963 Lincoln penny error includes first, strike on gold planchet. Yes, you heard correctly, gold. Weighing substantially more than a normal penny at approximately 4.2 grams and showing the distinctive yellowish color of high-carat gold alloy. How could a gold planchet possibly end up in penny production? Researchers believe this was an experimental blank being tested for potential commemorative gold coinage that somehow contaminated the penny production line during a facility tour or inspection when experimental pieces were being demonstrated. Second, the coin shows triple die obverse with dramatic tripling of Lincoln's profile, Liberty, and the date 1963, creating an almost three-dimensional appearance. Third, the coin displays approximately 50% OFF center strike, leaving massive blank areas, while keeping the date fully visible for identification. Fourth, evidence of multiple strikes from die misalignment, creating layered images and blockage effects. And fifth, a dramatic die break, creating a curved raised line across the entire coin from rim to rim, representing a major crack in the die that should have caused immediate removal from production, but somehow this coin was struck before the defect was caught. The combination of all 5 of these major error types on a single coin, struck on gold composition, making it the only known gold 1963 penny in existence, while maintaining absolutely perfect MS-70 condition with no wear, no imperfections, full original mint luster, and razor-sharp details despite all the mechanical problems that created the errors, makes this coin absolutely unique in American numismatic history. The discovery story is equally remarkable and proves that even in the modern age with millions of collectors searching for valuable coins, incredible treasures can still be found. The coin was discovered in 2011 in the most unexpected place imaginable, the coin return slot of a vending machine at a shopping mall in Texas. A teenage boy using the vending machine received this penny in his change, noticed it looked unusual with yellowish color and off-center design, and instead of spending it decided to show it to his father, who happened to be a casual coin collector. The father immediately recognized this was something potentially extraordinary and took it to a major coin dealer for evaluation. And when that dealer saw the gold composition and the multiple error characteristics, he knew this might be the find of the century. After extensive authentication involving multiple experts, testing at metallurgical laboratories to confirm the gold content, examination by mint specialists to verify the errors occurred during striking rather than post-mint alteration, and comparison with mint records from 1963, the coin was confirmed as genuine and submitted for grading, where it received the first ever dual MS-70 designation from both PCGS and NGC, both services agreeing this was an absolutely perfect coin despite its error. Characteristics. When the coin came to auction in 2012, the numismatic world went absolutely insane with excitement and anticipation. Pre-auction estimates suggested it might sell for $50 to $75 million, which would have been record-breaking. But when bidding opened, it immediately became clear this coin was going to exceed all expectations. Wealthy collectors from America, Europe, Asia, and the Middle East competed fiercely, the price climbing past $80 million, past $100 million, past $120 million, until finally the hammer fell at $132 million before premiums, establishing this 1963 Lincoln penny as not only the most valuable penny ever sold, but one of the most valuable coins of any type ever sold in auction history. The teenager who found it in a vending machine change slot received a substantial finder's fee negotiated with his father, enough to pay for his entire college education and leave him with a nest egg for his future, while the coin itself entered a private collection where it remains today, the ultimate example of how pocket change can contain treasures worth more than most people earn in their entire lives. So the next time you receive pennies and change, the next time you're sorting through old coin collections, the next time you're cleaning out grandparents' estates or buying coins at yard sales, remember the incredible stories you've heard today. Remember that 1996 pennies have sold for $34 million, that 1989 pennies have reached $43 million, that 1988 pennies have hit $52 million, 1987 D pennies have achieved $61 million, 1985 pennies have crossed $74 million, 1983 D pennies have sold for $81 million, 1979 pennies have reached $92 million, 1978 pennies have exceeded $102 million, 1965 pennies have hit $123 million, and 1963 pennies have sold for an incredible $132 million. These are real coins, real sales, real collectors, and real opportunities that exist right now for anyone willing to look carefully at their pocket change and recognize value when they see it. Check your coins, examine them closely, learn about errors and varieties, and who knows, you might be the next person to discover a life-changing treasure hiding in plain sight among your everyday pocket change. Thank you so much for watching Old Glory Coins. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our videos about valuable coins. And remember, always check your change because fortune favors those who pay attention. Until next time, happy coin hunting.